Okay, we're in orbit around the Earth, fairly circular. We're in plane with the Moon, and on the right we've got transfer, MFD. And we're going to use it to go to the Moon. We'll target, use the arrow keys over to Moon, hit Enter. Now we'll click on hypothetical orbit. We want to raise our delta V up to about 3,000, so we're going to click and hold. And it goes up fairly slowly, so you just click and wait. As it grows, we can see the near the center there, the orbit is growing. The apoapsis is climbing up. We want to take it out until it hits the yellow circle, which is the Moon. We'll actually go beyond a bit. That's probably good right about there. Now what we want to do is bring this around. So we'll go to the eject time, and you can see the white or gray line swinging around. We want to place it on top of the dashed yellow. So the white goes on top of the dashed yellow. Click plus until we get it there. It's a little bit too much. It's gone past. Maybe forward again. That's pretty good. Now the time of the burn is counting down. We're going to warp ahead in time, bring this down. And as you can see, we're getting lower. I'm still at warp 10. I'm going to turn prograde. We're now aimed prograde. And we want to center our burn, and it takes a while. So let's just say 80 seconds early we'll start. And we're getting down there. Here we go. I'm going to turn the motor on now. Full thrust. We're still prograde. And we can watch our delta V dropping. We can also, on the left, see our orbit growing. And so we don't waste time, I'm going to warp ahead. And we're going to bring our delta V to 0. Okay, and we're going to shut it off. Remember, we want to bring it to 0. I'm just toggling lightly. And if we want, we can change to linear and go forward to finish it. There. So we'll warp ahead now, and we'll see ourselves travel out toward the end. This green line is pointing from the Earth at where we are. Now remember, we're actually tracking along the ellipse here. So for example, right about now, I'm going to come back to real time. This straight green line where it is intersecting the green ellipse, that shows where we are. And the yellow is contacting right there is where the Moon is. Now the Moon's going counterclockwise around, and where this white line contacts both the Moon and the green ellipse, that is where we will hopefully encounter the Moon. So I'm going to warp ahead. Now it's getting pretty close. I'm going to go back to real time. And on the left, we're going to change our reference to the Moon. And we want to find out what it shows for our distance around the Moon. And it shows, I've clicked distance. We can toggle with distance over between the radius, which is from the center of the Moon, and the altitude, which is below the surface. Now at this distance away, this is still fairly inaccurate, so we'll warp ahead further, and it's showing that the number's dropping, which is good. Now we can see the time also over here, the time until we arrive, it's dropping. And notice actually kind of peeking out of the corner, we can see the Moon. I'm going to turn on the HUD, and we're in orbit. And I'm going to bring this down, and it shows here that we're the HUD is orbiting the Sun. We want to change our reference of the orbit, so clicking Control R, and we can enter then, well, here we are. Let's do that again. Control R, and then we'll just type moon and hit enter. So now we're in the orbit of the moon as far as what our HUD is. I'll bring this back into place. And I'd like to rotate us to facing at the moon. There we go. And now we can click to linear and do a little lateral. We can go to the left or right. Let's just try right for a moment and see what happens. And we're going to watch to see our height at the moon. And it's getting better, actually. We could go either way, left or right at this point. But let's just, that should be pretty good. So it says that we're going to be 65 kilometers, and it's growing, so we'll probably be 100 or 200 kilometers when we get there. And that's it, and we watch our time, and now we're going to warp ahead again. Here we come around the moon. And just before we get to the closest point, we're going to turn retrograde using the autopilot. And when the number's down to about 20 seconds or so, we'll burn. I'm warping ahead. There we go, shutting the motor off. We're around the moon.